So here's the beautiful function. Again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so you may not agree. I'm going to answer the questions. It's just tricky because you need to look at the graph, but the questions are on the other side. So let's just do some of these together. That's f of negative 10 is the first one. So f of negative 10, not the limit, but the function. So here's x equals negative 10. What's the function at negative 10? What's the y value? 0. Good. The y value is at 0 because there's a dot there. But question number 2, by the way, you don't have to write these down. Like these are on the back, so you could look at the back and just use the graph up here. Question number 2 is the limit as x approaches negative 10. So not what happens at negative 10, but what happens really close to negative 10. So what's the answer to the limit at negative 10? So we're getting closer and closer and closer. We don't care what's happening exactly at negative 10. We just want to get closer and closer. So what's our function? What's the graph headed to as x gets closer to negative 10? There is a hole, but the hole is at negative 10. I don't care what's happening at negative 10. I care what's happening really, 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 really close to negative 10. What is it headed toward? It's 1. So the limit is equal to 1. So the function, there's a hole there, and the function's at 0, but the limit is at 1 as we get really, really close to it. All right, number 3 has a new symbol in it. The limit as x approaches negative 6 with the little minus sign. Especially compared to number 4, limit as x approaches negative 6 with the little plus sign. Any guesses on what that little minus sign and plus sign mean?
Well, it's a negative 6 and then there's like an above and below.
You're on the right track. So we're definitely looking at negative 6 for both of them. But these are x values, so it's not above and below. You're on the right track, though. It's left and right. So minus sign means from the left, and the plus sign means from the right. So these are one-sided limits, so they don't have to match. I just want to look at, in number 3's case, let's get close to negative 6 coming from the left. So as x gets closer to negative 6, coming from the left. So I don't care about what's going on the right. I only care about from the left. So what are we headed toward? What is the function headed toward as x gets closer to negative 6 on the left-hand side? Negative 4. You got it?
Yeah. I was just a little confused in the beginning.
So how about as x approaches negative 6 from the right, what's the function headed toward? 1. Questions, concerns? Like once you see it and understand it, it's like, oh, well, these are pretty easy. But until it clicks, you're fighting a battle here.
The arrow isn't going towards the 6. Does that matter?
That doesn't matter. I see what you mean. Like this arrow is pointing away from the 6.
Yeah.
But we don't care about that arrow. This is telling me to get closer to negative 6 from the right. So I'm not even over there. I'm looking like way in close over there. Like what I'm doing, I don't know if I can zoom in this far, but I'm looking at as I get really, really close. Right? This is a little bit ridiculous, but that's the only thing I'm concerned with right there. So as I'm really close, as x gets really close to negative 6, my function is headed toward 1. So I'm focused, zoomed in on this much of the graph, I don't care what's happening way away from the graph. Let's see, number 5. Limit as x approaches negative 6. But it doesn't have a left or right, so I have to consider both. Wait, question?
Yeah, so does the open or closed circle like change the limit?
So that's a great question. The open or closed circle doesn't matter to the limit at all, because the open or closed circle is what's going on at the point.
Okay.
The limit just means as I get close to the point.
Okay.
So when we actually get there, well, it doesn't matter because we don't get there. We just get close. The limit is the y value as we get close to the point. Yes. Good questions. So how about number 5? As x approaches negative 6. But it doesn't specify from the left to right, which means we got to think about both of them. Well, we already said from the left it was negative 4. From the right it's positive 1. So overall the limit is, yeah, you're right. You're like, that doesn't work. You're right, it doesn't work. D and E. There's not a limit there. It's got to go to a point, not different points. Let's see. Number 6, I think you can get that. Number 7 is okay. I want to hit one of these asymptotes here. This approach is 5, left and right. Number 10 is okay. That little group. 11. Okay, let's look at number 12. Something different's happening at number 12. The limit as x approaches negative 4. Okay, there's sort of two answers here. So I will take either one right now, and then we'll talk about why one of them is more correct than the other. So as x gets closer to negative 4, forget about the details of the specific answer that I might be looking for. What's happening on the graph as x gets closer to negative 4? Yeah, you see some of this. It's going to, where's it headed? Space, infinity. So here's sort of the two answers you could give. You could say infinity, but infinity is not a number. And when we say limit, we want a number. If it's not a number, then it does not exist. So officially the answer is it does not exist because it goes to infinity. Now, the calculus AP test is never going to make that distinction. Like on a multiple choice test, it's not going to have both of those because you could argue either one of those is right. It's going to have D and E and then some other stuff. So the technically correct answer is D and E. If you want to put parentheses infinity, that's fine because that's sort of why it doesn't exist. Just looking to see if there's any others that need to anything weird going on. Let's skip to number 20 and then I'll leave the rest of them for you. Number 20 is not a hard one, but it's one of those that is so simple that it messes people up. So if you're thinking that doesn't look hard, then you're right. If you're confused, then that's okay. That's why we're doing it. So what do you think? As x gets closer and closer to 12, what's the y value as x gets closer and closer to 12? 2. Yeah, it's 2. Left of 12, right of 12, at 12 is all 2 when you're close to 12. And so it's really an easier one, but sometimes it's so simple that people are looking for holes and asymptotes. It's like, no, that one's just a straightforward one. All right, so your assignment today is to finish those 20 questions. So flip back and forth, look at the pictures. Be careful about left and right. There's another one that has left and right on there. Number 8 and 9 are left and right. And we'll go over those tomorrow. And I guess we'll do a seating chart tomorrow because we don't have time today.